Okay. All right, guys. I am here with Bob. Bob, how do I say your last name?
Plociennik.
Plociennik. Okay, great. And Bob, can we go to your art station real quick so people can
Yeah,
just know exactly where to find you? So I saw Bob's work online, and I think there was something at ZBrush Central as
yeah,
well. And I thought, I really had to meet Bob because he's got a very interesting kind of career in terms of what he does, and I thought it might be very interesting for you guys to see because I've talked a lot about this idea of digital sculptor to character artist, but there is this avenue of the digital sculptor and what you can do and all of that, and when I was looking at Bob's work, it just is a great example of how you do this for a living and in terms of the production and all that good stuff. So Bob was kind enough to agree to come in here and answer some questions and do all of that stuff. So Bob, thanks so much for joining me.
yeah. Happy to be here.
All right. So was it a top row, I think, or something at Zebra Central that connected us? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think this guy got into top row. Yeah. So, and after he got to the top row, you contacted me about this thing.
Yeah, that's great. So how big is this?
It's pretty big actually. When you see this transparent guy here, he's 32 millimeters. So the whole guy is about 15, 20 centimeters.
Is anybody else doing the inch conversion? 15
Uh,
centimeters to inches. Thank God for Google. So he's 6 inches tall.
yeah, probably.
The whole piece is 6 inches tall. Is that right?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And that's pretty big for you then, right?
Yeah, I'm usually sculpt an inch and a half for, I guess.
That's awesome. All right. So, uh, yeah, let's
Yeah,
see. How much is it?
that's the
Oh,
usual size.
whoa. Okay. And do you do this? You're sculpting this inside a ZBrush and then just shrinking it down, I imagine, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I usually just start with the size, so I get dynamesh to around 2 to 4,000, and it's pretty enough for this size.
Huh.
I don't have to shrink it. I just do it in this size.
Tell me what you mean by that. That'd be great. Do you have ZBrush open? You can walk me
Yeah,
through that process?
yeah, sure. I mean, I just have my basic file,
Mm-hmm.
and you have. I mean, it used to be. So I just set it up to like around eyes because you always measure these miniatures to the eyes.
Yeah.
And I go to the preferences and transpose units, and of
Mm-hmm.
course I set it 32, and yeah, and that's the size I work in. I mean, this is to measure everything,
Yeah.
and I like to zoom out often to check how it will look on a miniature because yeah, after printing it, it's about this size.
Yeah.
So I zoom out a lot. But yeah, that's about that. And I, as I said, I usually work with high resolution Dynamesh because in the end it has to be Dynameshed anyway for
Mm-hmm.
printing.
Got it. And at this size, so you've got it scaled. And what tool were you using to scale it? Was that
I scale it at the end with a 3D printing hub and this, yeah, you do update size ratio,
okay?
and I just type millimeters here, like wide millimeters, and yeah.
Okay. So the first tool you used was a transpose line to establish, just whatever. I mean, ZBrush actually works in centimeters,
Yeah,
so that makes sense. But you were actually using millimeters. Am I right?
yeah. Uh, in Europe we do that.
Okay, got it. And so, if I remember right, ZBrush's internal unit is centimeters, not millimeters. But so you use that, and then you just transpose it, or you just move it later. But what I was interested in is the geometry. You said in terms of Dynamesh, you set that resolution to 2000.
Yeah, 2 or 4,000, somewhere between that, because yeah, this file is, for example, the base is
Mm-hmm.
imported STL, and so it's exactly 30 millimeters. Yeah, so this is the final size, and if I would just do update size ratio, it would count it the size this is.
Mm-hmm.
And so the miniatures should fit it, so it has to be dynameshed at this resolution because, as you know, the resolution is connected with a scale of a model in ZBrush.
Yeah.
So you have to work on really high resolution to be able to do that all.
Yeah.
As I said, at the end you have to then dynamesh everything anyway because you have to export it for 3D printing, and it has to be one part.
Got it. And so I would have almost thought that you needed less polygons, like 2,000 in terms of the resolution. But you, even at that size, you still need that 4,000.
Yeah, I mean, that's I have an example because I was thinking like this guy, this werewolf.
Yeah.
He was have a fur all over him.
Yeah.
So I had to that 4,000 wasn't enough. So I decided I don't care, and I just scaled it up. So I have enough resolution on him with this 4,000 resolutions.
Okay, and then for the character guys here, you know, we don't do a ton of Dynamesh because it's all like game. But what Bob's referring to is that Dynamesh, the resolution is actually tied to the size of the model. So this gets us into problems some points. If the model is really small, then your Dynamesh looks like really big. The holes will look huge, and even if you're at a high level, so sometimes you have to adjust the scale to get the Dynamesh right. And Joseph wrote a really cool plugin called Dynamesh Master, I think, which does it. But in your case, Bob, like you're trying to capture very small details like this fur, and you're trying to keep really clean, hard edges. Do you know what these things are 3D printed at? You know what the micron level is?
I guess probably around 20, 30.
Okay,
like that.
Which is really, really high. I mean,
kind of like 13 layers a millimeter.
Yeah, and like 10 is kind of like crazy high.
Yeah.
If you want to go fast, I think it's like 50 or 100. Like, if you're using FDMs, which is fusion deposit material, I mean, they rarely go below 100. I think 100 microns, but I could be.
It's usually printed on the STL.
Yeah.
I don't know what it stands for. I can check.
Yeah, like my form 2 gives me the option of all the way down to I think 10 micron, if I remember right.
Yeah, I have for my own use a One-Hao Duplicator 7, which is a Chinese chip printer, and it goes down to 35. And I think that's for me it's enough, but I wouldn't rely with my company on it. I just bought it to play with it as a hobby.
Yeah.
To check how it works and stuff.
Because it's fun.
Not really to produce stuff, yeah. And it's fun.
Yeah. I bought a Units printer. It's been in the box for the last 3 weeks because I haven't had a chance to play with it. But they're supposed to be printing, I think, 10 times faster than Formlab computers or printers. So getting higher microns doesn't take like a day and a half because I used to just let that thing go.
Mine takes a day to print one model. So yeah, I know how it works.
Yeah. So talk to me about your process here, like what you do in terms of the day job. And what I'm wondering is like, just in terms of the job, like, are you freelance? Are you not freelance? Is this a staff position that you have?
It's to freelance, but I didn't really like dealing with clients and have to write emails to people all the time. So I decided to have a full-time contract.
Yeah.
And firstly, I had it for 2 years with the Product Games.
Yep.
And after it was done, I was contacted by Merge Miniatures. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Maybe I'll just show you the page because this name is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is how I spell it. And I'm working for them for the past year, I think, since the last May. And I like working for them because they have really high detailed miniatures for the scale, of course.
Yeah.
And they don't really rush things. They rather have high quality than fast miniatures.
That's great. That's great. And so now, Do they give you a like a design, a 2D design? Do they give you
Yeah, I can
3D?
show you actually the design for the one I just showed you. Okay, so this is the design.
Mm-hmm.
I can zoom in a bit.
Okay, so they've got somebody drawn this out.
Yeah, there are a few versions of it actually,
Mm-hmm.
because mostly the miniatures have multiple weapon options. So you can see this one has a sword only, this one has a shield, and
Oh yeah,
the third version is actually the same torso, but it also has a bow and arrows. Yeah,
got it.
so it's interesting. Have to work with multiple weapons on a single model.
Yep.
It gets messy sometimes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I really wanted to chat with you about as well, is how you kind of organize your mesh. But the first thing is they give you a drawing, so it's a line drawing, so it's got actually some pretty specific instructions in it.
Yep.
Do they only give you that one view? Do they give you a turnaround?
No, never turn around. It's just only one drawing, and in some rare cases there is no drawing at all. It's just a description, and I have to work with it. But mostly it's a drawing.
So how do you start with that one drawing and start to convert that into an actual 3D model?
That's a good question. Actually, you just have to look for. You just have to take a close look. Like first, you check the anatomy, if it's masculine or skinny, or how it looks.
Mm-hmm.
And I just always start with this, my basic human. It's have rather weird proportions. It has to be like this for a miniature, like
Yeah.
when you zoom in on his face, how humans look. But yeah, for miniatures, it has to be like this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so then I move into like here's the next level. Like this is still the human underneath. It's kind of weird because I added the head, but yeah. That's it. Then I move into, as I said, I merge it in with the Dynamesh, so it's now a single mesh.
Okay.
I need to work like that.
So you start with a pretty full-on sculpted base mesh, and then you augment it for detail. So like it looks like you sculpted the legs a little bit more for this werewolf.
Yeah, of course.
And then you add so you swap out the face. So you're probably just in one subtool. Do you just start sculpting the face out of another sphere, or?
Yeah, I just append the sphere,
Mm-hmm.
and I end up with something like this.
Yeah.
And then I cut out a lower jaw because it's not only one pose. I only showed you one, but I got to 5 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them have open mouth, some of them have closed mouth, so lower jaw is always a separate piece.
Yeah.
Then the eyes and eyelids are separate, so they don't merge and lose detail throughout the sculpting, and I just merge it at the end while exporting. And ears also are separate, so I could, convey more emotions with it. And yeah, and of course, hands are separate meshes, so I can swap them for different weapons. And besides that, it's one piece.
Okay, got it.
And
So
I'm done.
yeah. I was going to say, so this is sculpted in a base pose, so to speak.
Yeah, with a T-pose, I keep it as sort of the T-pose. I keep it as long as possible because it's faster to sculpt.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
Symmetry.
Yeah, but so you replace the head and you replace the hands. So in some cases you've got a closed hand, and in some places you got an open hand. And I imagine you actually have a library of these things at this point, right?
Yeah, actually, yes. I just import them from other files, and that's why free sculpting is cooler than traditional one.
Oh yeah, right.
Traditional background, but yeah, it's much faster.
Yeah.
So okay, then I got in and sculpted fur, but I got a feedback that he looks pretty weird actually. some costume, you have to exaggerate details, but apparently this was too much. They asked me to go back and do the fur.
Yeah.
I did that, and here's the result.
Yeah.
at this point, it actually have a subdivision levels because it's already prepared for posing. And for that, I need low poly, so I can mask that and rotate, because I mostly use this method. And yeah, like this. And of course, when you project it back, it's not as deformed as if you would do it without subdivision levels. So there's the need for them. And I did use this method for this one, and after I was done with posing, oh wait, before I post, I also made most of the equipment that I could, so that, yeah. Of course, when he's in the T-pose, it's faster to make like this thing in the symmetry, not by hand.
Right.
So this is how we looked at this point. And
if you don't mind, I'd love to dive into the process for these parts, because this is also one of the things, especially for character artists, getting clean lines, and like you have no margin for error there because it becomes so small. You have to have clean lines. What are some of the tools? Like, how do you get such a clean line? Because I'm assuming you stay mostly inside a ZBrush. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I only work in ZBrush.
Great.
I don't really use any other software.
Yeah.
So I would just append, like for the armor, I would append this cylinder, for example. I would scale it down. Just scale it down. Obviously rotate it a bit. Then I use this cool transpose function, which lets you cut on the go. Move it and obviously divide it a few times. And Dynamesh, of course, is always. So this is basically it. And if I want to just add more polish, I will activate symmetry with local turned on. And I will go in with high polish. This is the brushes I use daily, by the way.
Oh, H polish you use a lot?
H polish. Yeah, H polish. I use it a lot for exactly this type of thing.
Great. Yeah.
I have to take a sharp edge. It's perfect for that.
Perfect. Yeah. This is
pretty much it.
Super powerful brush.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, and so maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe the key for creating these hard edges is that if you just start with the simplest shape possible.
Yeah, you start low poly. Usually I just append these simple cube, sphere, or cylinder and work with it as long as possible. And when I need more detail, I just divide and Dynamesh.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, because I know, sometimes when we're working on these characters, we want something to be unique, and so we can kind of complicate things pretty quick.
Yeah.
And what about belts? Because that's definitely where stuff gets complicated, right?
Could you repeat, please?
What about belts?
Belt. Okay. I'm gonna switch to this. Okay. Okay. So this is basically the same rule. You can see that it was made by different subtools. So this middle one was just a cylinder. But that was just made with move tool, so you can shrink the cylinder. Then, of course, I appended the cube for this, and about this hole, I just did.
I love it. It's even more of the simplicity. Like, it's just a cube, and then you just push this inside in.
Yeah, exactly. Just divide a few times.
Who here feels like they've been overthinking things? Those of you who are live with me here.
Yeah, and this is basically how it came to be.
Yep.
So that's it. And Then you of course have another cylinder and another two, I don't remember, cubes probably. And this is actually by hand from the sphere. And this is just a lot of high polish, as I said, H polish.
Yeah.
And clay build up. Just a few minutes of fun, and you end up with something like this.
Yeah. So you just a sphere. You kind of, pull something out with some of the.
With wood, then come in with clay build up, and when I think its general shape is all right, but it needs more polish.
Yeah.
Came in with H polish.
That's beautiful, man. That's very cool. So cool to see this. This is such a refreshing, straightforward approach to it. Not extreme. Yeah.
I have this traditional background, so I just try to replicate my process from the traditional sculpting into the ZBrush. And I didn't really take any classes, just had fun with it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's just really cool because I think many of us, and those of you who are live, tell me if you had this thought as well, would be thinking that they need to extract out a belt loop and do all of that stuff, and the next thing you got to deal with, how am I going to kind of pull this strap out? So you might use curved strap brush, which I actually demoed I think just a month ago. So now I'm a little bit I like this approach.
Yeah.
I like this. It's very fast. How long does it take for you to create one of these models?
Okay, so it depends. If model is really simplistic and it's human, so I start with this and I just add an equipment and pose it a little. It can be done in 1 to 2 days. For this wolf, I think it was more like a week. For the whole poses. Because I didn't show you that, but here are all poses, because it ended up being 5 options.
Yeah.
With a sword and shield, then spear and hand, spear and shield, and of course the bow version. So it has most of the parts are the same. I always try to change it as small as possible from pose to pose, because companies often want to keep to print just one torso and legs and just make the arms swappable, so to minimize costs of printing and casting.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so sorry, my brain might have blanked. I was thinking about all this process. About how long do you think it takes?
About a week for werewolf complicated like this. For human, 1 to 2 days.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So about a week, and then 1 to 2 days for some of the variations. And then are you just delivering the ZTL files to them? Do you cut this up? Do you Dynamesh this?
I cut it all. Let me swap. Okay, I'm just delete this all so I can get some power back. Okay, actually, you know what? It will be faster to just open it. Once again. Okay. Okay, so here's another model I made. This is a finished one, and it still has subtools, all the subtools on it. So the torso is one part. Yeah. And there's some part on the tail. Yeah, basically it's how it looks when I finish my job, but when I don't yet cut it to the pieces. That's also my responsibility, so here's in parts. So I basically merge it all, and then I cut it to the pieces, so something like this needs to be done.
Okay.
Let's take a tail as an example.
Yeah.
So you have to make these joints so people can actually assemble them without problem.
And
you have to have a corresponding hole, of course.
Yep. Yeah, that is something I want to chat with you about, because so I do that, and then every now and then it's just too tight. So So frustrating.
There's an easy fix, so you just to duplicate this.
Mm-hmm.
You go to deformation, inflate, and inflate it about, I don't know, I used or something like that, and this is all it takes.
And you set that to an inflate of 2, right?
Yeah, 2, 3, it's perfect for the scale.
Okay, so that's a good point. So 2, 3 is good for what? What scale? About an inch or about 5 inches?
About an inch or an inch and a half.
All right. Yeah, and don't.
4000 resolution.
Okay, and just a warning for anybody who's going to just multiply that. Don't the numbers ZBrush sliders don't work linearly. That's so you couldn't just say, hey, it's 5 inches. It's going to be, 3 or 4 times that. They have a logarithmic function to them, so you just have to be.
I can just show you before and after once again. So this is before, and this is after. It's really slight difference, but it's enough to make the parts fit.
Yeah, I think that visually is probably the smarter option to measure that than numbers. Okay, cool. I got that. That makes sense. And then do you use the Boolean feature now to make this stuff happen, or?
No, I just take this thing and let me just move it. I move it underneath.
Mm-hmm.
I click this right thing, so I think it's tracked. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, as everything else, I just merge it down and Dynamesh.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
End to end with.
You're not using live booleans or anything like that. You're just using the old school boolean.
I just learned it that way and didn't bother to change it.
Yeah. Well, if it works, it works.
Yeah. Okay, and this is after the Dynamesh. Yeah. And after that, last thing I have to do is when you look at this, and the polymesh is really dense.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have it like this for a 3D printer to handle.
Yeah.
So I always go with C plugin and to Decimation Master.
Yeah.
I pre-process it and decimate it, and I can just swap file to where I have all this done. Okay, so it went down from 5 millions to 172K.
Mm.
Yeah, it looks.
What percentage do you normally set your decimation master to? Is it a percentage or is it a polygon count you're looking to get?
It's just polygon count I look for. It's about not more than 1 million for all the parts of the model, I guess.
Okay.
This scale. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went from 5 millions to 170,000.
Okay, because that's just was that the body or the tail? That was the body.
Body.
Okay.
The body.
Got it.
So yeah, you can see a slight decrease in the quality.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when you keep in mind that this is gonna be like this big, it doesn't really matter at all.
Okay, got it. Yeah, and Decimation Masters, I mean, it's on par with the $10,000 program and their decimation process, so it's pretty solid. Oh, right. Well, that's really cool. So, how'd you get into miniatures? How'd you get into this? You were a traditional sculptor.
Yeah, I'm a traditional sculptor, and I started as a kid actually playing Lord of the Rings miniatures games.
Yeah.
And I was just converting models to look cool or something, and then people start approaching me saying, "I like your miniatures. Could you sculpt one for me or something?" And I just accept these sort of commissions.
Yeah.
So I can show you. I don't know, maybe this one. So this is traditional sculpt. It was about 45 millimeters, sorry. So a bit less than 2 inches.
Yeah.
Just sit all days with a needle to make all these details here.
What kind of clay were you using?
It was Fimo, I believe, or Super Sculpey. Sorry.
Okay.
Super Sculpey. Firm, I believe. Yeah, but there was this thing, you probably know about it, when this always happens. So I decided to finally swap to digital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It fell on you dropped it.
Yeah, it's not actually mine, but it shows the problem pretty well.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at one where they lost the nose and the brow. It just somebody ran into it and it There you go.
Yeah, it always happened to me, and I would lose like a week of work, and yeah, it was frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to go digital. So I just went on Google and Googled miniature concept art because I was already sculpting the miniatures, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to go digital. And I found the concept of the actual immersion miniatures. So
Oh,
the
nice.
people I work, and I sculpted their miniature and I put it online. And so after that, some people approached me. Like I got the first commission for this guy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It was a lot of fun with the feathers.
Oh, yeah.
It was a lot of work, and I didn't really know the software all too well then.
Mm-hmm.
So I struggled a lot. This is another hard example when I made all this pour by hand.
Oh man, my friend, this hair is just gorgeous. I love how you do this.
Yeah, thanks, but this was insane amount of work.
I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, now I just have a brush for it, and I just pull it out, and it's way faster. I can show you in a minute.
Oh God, I would love that. Yeah, and yeah, I'll save my questions for then. Yeah, but yeah, this is cool. Okay, so
Yeah.
you did this, and then what
And
happened?
then after these two pieces, the owner of Produce Games actually contacted me. He's a Polish guy actually too.
Yeah.
He said, "We actually need someone with your skill, and if you want to come, you can like start next week." And I was at the college back then, but I decided that actually this is what I always wanted to do. So I dropped it out and start working for them full time.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was my first miniatures and zombies. I don't know, but yeah, this was my first weeks of work, I guess. And from this, it just went. I get better with the software after 2 years. Actually, after about a year of me working there, this guy I originally made my first digital miniature contacted me, and he said like, I liked what you did with it. Maybe you want to make whole squad for us, and so I did a whole squad. And from this time onwards, I was just working full time with Prodos, and on the weekends and evenings, I would make commissions. And after 2 years of me at Prodos, they just offered me a full-time job at Mercia Miniatures, so I just took it, and here I am now, doing this.
Awesome.
Yeah, okay, so I can just maybe now go back to ZBrush to show you that that third I do know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be great.
So, okay, so I'm just gonna start.
Orlando the Technicolored has one of your sculpts.
That's cool. It's always cool when people have them. Okay, so let's go. Just okay. So this is my custom brush I made not so long ago when I was making that werewolves to speed up the process. So I made a few of them, but I only use basically just 2 of them. So I can just let me.
And these are vector displacement brushes.
Yes, that's correct. 3D alphas. And I just drag it out like that. And it's very fast. It gives you a lot of freedom, but at the same time it's way faster than sculpting them by hand. And I also have like the same, but in the other direction. I have like 3 of them, but I don't use it that much. As I said, I mainly use these 2 basic ones, and it's pretty fast to cover even the whole miniature with it.
Is there a kind of is there a process? Is there something that you do consistently? Like, say, for example, what am I thinking? Like, do you start from the bottom and work your way up, or start from the top, or do you just kind of go for it?
Start from the top to like this. Let's say the hair covers this place, so
Yeah.
it's a good place to start. So
Yeah.
you just drag it out, and it doesn't look weird. If you start like from here,
Okay.
it kind of doesn't have a beginning or the end. So it's I guess it can be done either way, but I always like to start from some cover, like from the hair.
Ah, okay. So you like to start from some position where it's going to terminate or end, or
Yeah.
and then build up from there. Okay, and build it down. So it looks like you're building outwards as opposed to upwards or anything else.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. Okay, so let me open this up to questions. So, folks, any questions, anything on your mind? Give me a quick shout out. Let me know. I'm looking at both those who are in the guild and those who are in the live meeting with me right now. Anything you want to know about process or printing or whatnot? We only have Bob for a little bit longer, so make sure you start putting those questions in. And if we can head back to your actually, Bob, do you have that model that got top road? Do you have the 3D model for that?
Yeah, sure, I do.
I'd love to see that. Yeah.
Okay, where would this be? Okay, I guess here.
And are you Whoops. Are you freelancing? Okay, hold on.
No,
I'm getting some echo right now, actually.
Yeah, now I have an exclusivity deal with Immersion Miniatures, so I just sculpt for them.
Okay, got it.
Okay, I'll just load the last file I have on him. I think it's already cut in pieces, but it will run faster thanks to that. Okay.
All right.
Okay, so here is all
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is what a lot of us kind of got into the sculpting for, especially in the game side of it. We saw miniatures. I remember my brothers always had these miniatures around, and I know this is what some of us got into it from, so to speak. So it's really cool to kind of see this. So I think the last question that we could, there's a couple of questions, but cloth is one of the things that really came up. So you're not getting into Marvelous Design or anything like that.
No, I do it by hand. I can just show you quickly. So I would just, as I said, I would just append the cylinder. Oops, a bit too big. Because I said, yeah, I have those scaled up. Scaled down, I mean. Okay. 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 Okay, and I will just, as I said, append some primitive. Then I come in with a move brush, and I try to mimic a body underneath, so it fits pretty well. It takes time, so it's not gonna be perfect today, but you get the point. I just let's see, okay, like this. Then I divide it like 2 or 3 times to have enough resolution, and I just can come in with a clay brush, for example. And I just do like this, strokes, and can come in with a smooth brush. And that's basically it. I just spent a lot of time making sure those look as realistic as they should on the miniature. If I need a sharp edge, I can come in with a demi and standard to just make that edge a bit sharper.
Yeah.
And of course, move it out. High polish also helps. H polish, sorry, to get that sharp details because, as I said, you have to zoom out and check how it looks from the far away.
Mm-hmm.
And for the end of the cloth, I usually just, to make it ripped, I just come a bit more resolution, I guess. I just come with Damin standard, of course, and just do like something like this.
Oh, okay.
And like, yeah, something like this to just look good.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter how you make it, just when you zoom out, it's actually starting to look as it should.
Mm-hmm.
When you want to make a hole, you can of course do it with Damien standard, so like this, and make it a bit deeper, because it's very small scale. So if you not make it deep enough, it won't show it at all. Yeah, that's something like this.
Okay, got it.
I guess.
Yeah.
So that's the process basically.
That's great. That's really cool to see. I love that technique of the Damien Cinderbrush, just to kind of give you a nice cool edge, and then you just throw it all up, in behind it. That's really neat. All right, my friend, Paul's got one more question for you. He's got, are there any mere concepts you are looking forward to working on?
I guess I don't know if I should talk about it, actually.
Fair enough. Then let's not get you in trouble in case we publicize this.
Yeah, I guess I had some. I know I'm gonna be sculpting, but I'm gonna need a second to find it. There's some guy on a huge lizard. I don't know where he is, but he should be somewhere here. But basically, I just like to work on these bigger monsters rather than humans and all stuff.
They give you more freedom to play with design, or what's the reason?
Not really, but it's just fun when you are sculpting some large monster with all the spikes and natural armor. When it's more entertaining for me when you compare it to just sculpting some human. I mean, I don't really know where to find it. I'm sorry.
No worries.
If he asks this question, I'm sure he knows what I'm talking about.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, it's good to see this. All right, my friend. Well, I think we will call this a day. I really appreciate you showcasing your work and showing us some of your process and giving us kind of a peek into this, because this is a world, that number one, you're getting paid to do this. I have a friend actually who is one of the founders of, I think they call it Hero Forge.
I know that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and so she does this all day. She sculpts this stuff all day, and she does it in a nice shiny office in Santa Monica, I think. So this is definitely a career option that exists for people, and especially, sorry, you were going to say something.
I just wanted to say that I find it much more interesting than working in the game industry, because like everything is way cooler when you get to pose it with games. You only work in T poses, and after some time, I imagine it would get very boring. I don't know.
What do you think are some of the keys for people who want to work in the miniature business? What are some of the essential, characteristics about their work, or the things that they should really work on in terms of craft? What's really important?
I mean, the most important is, I guess, anatomy, because you end up sculpting a lot of humans, and even if you sculpt monsters, you have to make them look as realistic as possible, so they have to have all the muscles correct and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then after that, also very important is, as I said, posing. So you just have to, I guess, look at many models online to get the feel, that because you can't have a model that looks stiff. It has to like look like it's affected by gravity, and like sometimes it needs to look like it's tired or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to study poses a lot. And after that, I guess you have to just train yourself to make everything a bit exaggerated. Because when you make a sword, for example, and you make it in the correct scale to the model, it's too thin. So you have to make it bigger, thicker, and stuff like that to make it show to show it better on miniature.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, so these three things I think are the most important, and the rest will come, I guess.
All right, that's great. Thank you so much, Bob, for taking the time and for showing all of this. And for if we can end on your ArtStation in case anybody wants to head over there. And he's got the coolest ArtStation link. I was like, how the hell did you get that? It's just ArtStation/Bob.
Yeah, it is.
I love that. So I should have thought about that and just been like ArtStation/Ryan, and I'd like own Ryan, but
Yeah.
I had to put my last name in that. Anyways, thank you so much, my friend. It's so great to meet you and to see your process. So
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Wish you see you around. Wish you lots and lots of success.
Yeah, thank you very much, you too.
Okay.